And I want to welcome you to the Moral Compass. And we're about to start our show. Welcome to the Moral Compass. We have the very capable Laverne Cord. Tonight. I sound like you're getting ready to preach, right?
You sound like it.
Right? Yeah.
Don't bring me up. Don't bring me up.
Don't bring And we have our sister Anastasia Ketchin back with us again. Anastasia, we're glad to have you with us tonight. We have a couple of the guests. They haven't gotten here yet. Still trying to get here, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. We do have Laverne Green Cords, native South Carolinian, raised in Moncks Corner, South Carolina, graduated. Well, I already said native South Carolinian. Graduated from Berkeley High School, attended the University of South Carolina, Aiken, and Charleston Southern University. She has nearly 28 years. She's had nearly a 28-year career in higher education. The last 18 years at the College of Charleston. A daughter, a wife, a mother, and a proud Black queen.
Yes,
amen. We're glad to have her with us tonight. And also we have Anastasia Ketchin, the director and founder of Driven LLC and Up, Unlocking Potential. She's a multifaceted artist, sweetgrass, traditions keeper, playwright, director, published author, activist. She's set on dismantling systems of oppression, helping heal our community, and encouraging others to reach their maximum potential as they walk in their purpose. You can learn more about her organization's Driven LLC at togetherweshall.com. That's togetherweshall.com, and Up at unlockingpotentialinYou.com. She has published works also. I Heard Chicago Cry, The Outcry, the first and second editions, and she also has Natural Embrace. So we are glad to have her with us. I do see that we have Letitia Burns. She's in the house with us tonight. Letitia House Burns. And I don't have a biography from Sister Letitia House Burns. I'm gonna let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing this evening?
Good.
All right.
My once again, he just said it's Letitia House Burns. Just a little background for myself. I am a therapist. I also am a minister. I've done a little bit, dibbled and dabbled in a little bit of some of everything, from HIV to mental health, to corrections, a correctional diversion program, gerontology, anything and everything, you name it. I've tried to dip and dab in it to try to reach our community in the best way that I know how. Substance abuse, any way that I can help someone, at least reach one person, and that's what I've always tried to do, just at least reach one person, and that to me is a success. God has always blessed me so that I can bless others, and whatever mainstream that I can do that in, and whatever form I can do that in, I go for it.
Amen. And she can bake a serious sour cream pound cake.
Amen. Amen, Pastor.
Have mercy, have mercy. That sour cream pound cake is good. We have Sister Lori with us.
How
you doing?
I just joined. I just joined in. Could you recap? Is everyone doing an intro?
Yeah, introducing yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm Lori Chapman. I am a native of Moncks Corner. I am the wife of Mr. Tyrone Chapman of 16 years. I have 2 children and 4 grandchildren. I'm currently the HR administrator for Premier Logistics.
Lori, you know what?
Yes.
I'm so crazy. I'm gonna make you laugh now. This is funny. I said, who's
Easy
that?
on me.
I said, who's that lady on the show? Because I didn't know who you were. And when you said Laurie, I said, okay, but I was gonna roll with it now. I didn't know who you were.
All natural.
Listen, I got training. You know,
I went all natural on you.
You know, but I was gonna roll. Laurie, good to see you, man. I got you. Yeah, my friend Laurie. Oh Lord, I tell you what. Yeah, I was checking you. I was like, who's that right there? I said, well, I'm gonna introduce them. They on the show.
Laverne, would you please explain the natural process to him?
You know, I was going to get back into that later when we get into the subjects. Was he's touching on some things?
Okay. Oh my goodness, he's horrible.
Oh, Laurie is good. We haven't seen each other in ages, though, so you know I get a pass for that. Laurie, it's good to see you. I get a pass for that. So tonight we're tuning into the moral compass, and tonight our subject is the skin I'm in. Part 2. We had the guys on here last night, and those guys were really getting down with the subject. And now tonight we have the ladies on here. We have the intellects on here also. They were intellects last night. Don't want that to be said. You know. But yeah, we got the ladies on here tonight, and so our subject is the skin I'm in. Cameo wrote a song, and the lyrics to the song were, "Who's this face in the mirror that I see? Sometimes confused by the double standards of society. If we have truth, we can survive. And for that, our forefathers have died. It should be a moral or a sin if it is according to the skin I'm in." It was the great Marcus Garvey that said, "The black skin is not a badge of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of national greatness." And so we find that with the skin that we're in, we have both external and internal problems. So first, we're going to look at the external problem, starting off. In 1712, Willie Lynch, a British slave owner from the West Indies, is called in because of the various slave uprisings. And he's been called because the only recourse that the slave masters have is to hang the ones that rebel. So Mr. Lynch proposes to the slave masters a system by which to control the slaves. A simple method, if employed, it would keep them in check for 300 years. He says, pit them against each other, according to their differences, the old against the young, the tall against the short, the men versus the women, the big plantations against the small plantations, the east side versus the west side, the field workers against those in the big house, the light skin versus the dark skinned. And if you employ this system for a year, it will create perpetual distrust between the slaves. So our first question tonight, and we're going to start with you, Laverne. Our first question tonight is Willie Lynch's system still in place? And is it working in 2020?
Yes, it is. Still in place. It's still working. And even when we don't think that we are kind of buying into what's been planted all those years ago, we actually are. And I think we're coming to a place of some realization. You know, there's always pain and growth. And I think that's why it's getting to be really a friction within ourselves, because we're coming to reality that what he did or what was done to us and our ancestors so many years ago is still in play. Yes, it worked. And yes, it's still working in 2020. But I think knowledge, you know, that's always the key. When you acknowledge something,
absolutely,
you can work towards fixing it. So we're at that stage where we can acknowledge it if we can openly acknowledge it. And then we work towards fixing it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anastasia, is Willie Lynch's system still in place, and is it working in 2020?
I agree that it is definitely still in place. We see this even when we go on our jobs. There's a hierarchy system. And I'll tell you about an experience. I just went into Earth Fair the other day, right on James Island, and it was pretty clear that I was not welcome there. And you could see a lot of us in the kitchen, and you can even see when you go into a restaurant, who's in the kitchen, who's the waitress, and then who's the greeter, you know, and usually you have somebody of a lighter or fair skin that's interacting with the customers, and everybody a little darker, working behind the scenes. And you see this in our professional arena, you see this everywhere we go, and even in our homes. That spirit of division that was planted years ago still exists. Phrase we don't like to say, especially y'all down south in Charleston, is, you know, that crabs in a bucket theory, because again, we're denying the reality of what we're still facing, that inner turmoil that was planted there. And we don't support one another anymore. We don't look out for each other. You know, once upon a time in the community, you got the same pot, you ain't doing that no more. You don't trust one another because that fear and that lack of trust was there, and it still exists. And you even see this in our politics, in our political arena, our television. You see it everywhere, even in our songs. You know, the things that a lot of our youth are listening to today, it talks about that red bone girl versus the brown. Everybody has their place. And unfortunately, that mental enslavement is very live and well here. And we're still trying to figure out how to combat it. Many people still aren't willing or are ready to acknowledge the truth because they're too busy facing. We're fighting so many outside forces. We don't have time to look within.
Thank you, Anastasia. Laurie, is Willie Lynch's system still in place, and is it working in 2020?
Absolutely, on both questions. In a lot of cases, it's ourselves that are fighting against one another. When we're describing one another, we'll say the shade of skin, the grade of hair. But when we're talking about our white counterparts, we'll say brunette, tall. We give more descriptive words for them, and it has nothing to do with the Black characteristics. What we don't realize is those things that they try to shame us with, those are the things they're trying to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
They want our lips. They want what we have. We're born with it. Why are we going to have more work done to us? They want what we have. You know, when we drive to Beaufort and we see those oak trees that hang over, I don't get a dreary thought. I know they had to hang us from the strongest tree they can find. That's what we need to know. We need to know that. We're the stronger, but we have to work together. We don't work together. When we get something, we don't share it. When you get a house, teach the rest how to get a house. You fix your credit, teach the rest how to fix their credit. That's what we should do. There is no village. You cannot correct children anymore. Years ago, you'd get 5 behind cuttings for one incident, and anybody had the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, parents will tell you, don't you touch my kid, and don't you talk to them that way.
Absolutely.
So some things we need to go back to because they worked. Sure, we're moving along, technology is coming along, but some things that worked for us as a people, we need to go back to.
I'm having flashbacks. Five minutes for one thing.
That's right. Everybody had the right to tear your butt up.
Go through the whole olive branch at one time. I ain't going to the bathroom. I don't gotta go.
Look at all those old people used to have a switch bush in the yard. We even had a switch bush at the church, you know.
That's right.
Yeah, you used to have to go pick your own switch, you know. Of course, my cousin Christian Murdoch, she's watching this tonight. She'd always be the humble one. She'd bring back a big switch, right?
Oh my goodness.
You know, I bring back the most sickly thing I can find. I wish I want to bring. I ain't gonna help my family out. Hey, she was an expert. I'm gonna go out there and break her a good switch? No, but you're right. You're exactly right. You know, you're exactly right. I tell you what, I see Tish trying to get in, so we'll come back to Tish. We're gonna move on to the internal problems. We talked about the external. but now we do have some internal problems. And with our internal problems, let's see here. Forgot to bring something up here. Yeah, I need that over there. All right. With our internal problems started out the practice of the brown paper bag test. This was something brand new to me before I did this show. I'd never heard of this before. The brown paper bag test may have originated in New Orleans, Louisiana, where there was a substantial third class of free people of color dating from the French colonial era. The test was related to ideas of beauty, in which some people believed that lighter skin and more European features in general were more attractive. From 1900 until about 1950, paper bag parties are said to have taken place in neighborhoods of major American cities with a high concentration of African Americans. Many churches, fraternities, and nightclubs use the brown paper bag principle as a test for entrance. People at these organizations would take a brown paper bag and hold it against the person's skin. If the person was lighter than the bag, they were admitted. People whose skin was not lighter than a brown paper bag were denied entry. The brown paper bag test in African American oral history was a form of racial discrimination practiced within the African American community in the 20th century by comparing an individual's skin tone to the color of a brown paper bag. And I'm just looking right here. I don't think I was going to get in. I thought I got a but you see, I got close to me. I don't know.
You close.
I'm close. Oh,
you close.
That's because I got all these lights around.
We're going to get some lights then.
I have lighting. That's right. I have lighting. You know, so if I didn't have that lighting, I don't know. I might not make it in. But yeah, Marietta Grant called in last night, and she told me, and she called in, and she was my first caller. You know, hey, yeah.
Oh, you fancy? You so fancy?
Yes. With me now. Hey, yeah, got to support the home team. And Marietta called in, class of '86. Marietta Grant.
All right.
She told me that she had experienced this at HBCU like 30 years ago. She said she went to the HBCU. The young lady held up the paper bag. You know, terrific. First, the young lady said, "You got pretty hair." You know, and it's crazy. But Vern, that's your question. Let me stop.
No, you go ahead.
No. But Marietta called me and told me that. And before we did this segment, I was oblivious to the brown paper bag. So let me not put the horse before the cart, and let me go ahead and get to this point right here. The second general question, ladies, is the brown paper bag test still going on today in America?
Now, this is what I was saying. Everything that we do has history behind it, whether we call it that or actually have that physical representation of that bag. But everything that we do as part of our culture or part of our history, it comes from someplace. That brown paper bag is still being done, not in a physical sense, may not be in a physical sense. I'm surprised you hadn't heard about that before.
Me too.
2020. Although I didn't experience the actual bag, but I've heard of it throughout the years. I did hear about it, and other people who actually experienced it and they, told the stories down. But we can feel the effects of it. And I'll tell you, if they had that brown paper bag up right now, I wouldn't get in.
No,
that's right.
Nope, I wouldn't get in. But they still.
I wouldn't want to be in.
Exactly. That too. That part.
I'll disqualify myself.
It's like, don't worry about it. But it's that same mentality it drives a whole lot of things that we see. I work on the college campus now, and it's not a HBCU, but I can still see the remnants of that. We had one young lady who was very polished, but she had her coming of age experience on campus, and we had an event, a meeting actually of some Black women, and we tried to do a little mentorship type of experience. But she she made a comment that she thought that if she spoke the perfect English all the time, carried herself a certain way, she already passed the paper bag, but she developed all these other attributes. And as she was being accepted into the other areas, as the white people started accepting her, it was only after she got on our campus that she realized that she had alienated herself from her Black sisters. And she had this aha moment of, you don't have to choose one over the other. You don't have to not speak correct English. You don't have to not carry yourself in a proper way. You don't have to not do these things, but you also don't have to alienate yourself from who you are just to be accepted by who you aren't. So yeah, that paper bag is still up there.
Absolutely.
Sense, but we're still feeling the effects of it, and we're still acting that way. And again, it's what we don't say, but what we do to one another.
That's right.
Anastasia Ketchen, is the brown paper bag test still going on today in America?
Absolutely. We just call it colorism.
That's right.
Really?
And it's sad to say that my 7-year-old daughter experienced it in kindergarten, completely oblivious, to things. She's a lot lighter than I am. And what was very difficult was that this young lady is on the playing at Kaleidoscope after school, and she hears from women that look like her question whether or not I was her mother because of the difference in our complexion. So at that time, my 5-year-old daughter came home crying, asking me, are you not my mommy? Are you not my mommy? I love you. And I said, yes. And what they didn't understand is that because it came from women that looked like her, that it just resonated with her that much more. Mm-hmm. It's one thing because a child would come home questioning regardless, but if it came from a white woman, she, it had some substance, but not as much as people that look like you. And ever since that seed was planted, now she sees everything and feels everything. And it's really hard having to have that conversation with a 5-year-old because, we got to be realistic one way or another. But to do that, they don't understand the innocence, took some of her innocence away from her. And this is something that she's just one of many stories where it's experienced because we have this habit of saying things out loud and talking down to people. I had an aunt that used to always tell her children, you ain't going outside because you're going to get black. Well, what does that mean? Right. And not understanding that you implant in these self-defeating prophecies that's really going to stain your child. It's going to hurt them in the end. And calling people names like Celie. I used to be called that. And you know what? After a while, I embraced it because I said, first off, Celie got some money. She got some
all right.
She got some she put Mr. in the end, And if you mess around with her, she crack your teeth, she's going to give you dust. Okay? All of that. All you got to do to me.
Exactly.
Come back to you. But
right by me.
That's right. But that colorism is live and it's very strong. And we see this all the time in people's careers, especially the acting. And I know that's a question we'll get to later. But there's a lineup. You got to pass the test. Even in relationships, the mistress behind the scenes, but the light one on the arm, it happens.
Wow. Lori, is the brown paper bag test still going on today in America?
Absolutely. I'm surprised it's not been heard of in Macbeth, South Carolina, but it is still going on. And it starts young. Just like Anastasia just told you, my youngest son came home, I think Chris was in 2nd grade. He said, the kids want to know if I'm mixed. Well, you've never filled out an application where that was an option. So for a 2nd grader, the best answer I gave him was yes, you mix with your mama and your daddy, and hopefully they are too.
Absolutely.
We don't teach mixed. We don't. There are still some with that mentality that they want to get with a light-skinned man with some nice hair so they can produce some children that are of that shade and with that grade of hair, not thinking, not realizing they might get the grandmama skin off of your side. But there's still that thought that if you connect with this person, you will produce this product in 2020.
That's right. They bred us back in slavery too.
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a learned behavior.
Yep.
We've not corrected it.
Classical conditioning.
Yes.
Classical
Exactly.
conditioning. Classical conditioning. And you know, to build on that point before we move to the next segment, Morietta, when she called in last night, she said something. She said that Morietta's about my complexion. You know, maybe we're maybe a shade between us, but she's about my complexion. And she said she's had people to question her on her children because they are lighter. And you know, and when she tells them, yeah, those are my children, then you know, they'll say, well, their daddy must be Puerto Rican. And she said, no, my husband's not Puerto Rican, but it's a misconception. It's like it's so silly because the gene pool, genetics, like you mentioned earlier, Lori, it has nothing to do with the shade of your skin, but it is a very ignorant thing.
You
It's a
know,
very
people can assume certain things until you open your mouth and then you confirm certain things.
Right.
yeah
That's
True.
that's when you confirm to them what you really know.
yeah.
So yeah,
And you
My
have to consider. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say you
No,
have to consider so many people are all over the world. They have not traveled beyond their own borders, so they don't know.
absolutely. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. And my grandfather used to always say, he said, Corn, he said, don't, he said, always, he said, be quiet when you think of something and you really don't know it. He said, don't open your mouth and let people know how dumb you are. And I said,
Bingo.
yeah, I said, you're right. And
I was trying to be politically correct.
yeah, that's leading into that own understanding thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Get some facts, you know, get
That's
some
right.
yeah, read a book. Yeah,
Receipts.
absolutely.
They say receipts now.
Right. I got all of them.
Get the receipts.
Take them back to Walmart.
Right.
All right, moving on to the next session. Sister Anastasia Ketchen. In the biopic movie of the legendary singer Nina Simone, Zoe Saldana is cast to play the part. The estate of Nina Simone and her only child, Lisa Simone Kelly, had no personal problem with Saldana, but disapproved of the movie. Saldana, in heavy prosthetics and dark makeup, needed to transition the lighter skin to the darker skin, more ethnic Nina Simone. In an open letter, Grammy Award winner India Ari called the character of Simone ugly, not throwing dirt on Zoe Saldana, who said playing Nina Simone was her truth. And I personally saw the biopic. Saldana was great, but the makeup was disturbing. So India Ari called it Blacker Face, a spinoff from Blackface, when black actors would put on makeup and shuck and jive and ridicule themselves for whites entertainment. My question is this case, as India Ari said, Hollywood casting Saldana against type and pushing too hard to make her fit? Or is this a case of Zoe Saldana, black and of Hispanic descent, not being black enough?
First off, I love Zoe, but I almost feel like it's a combination of them because people do forget there's a flip side to this. There's the am I not light enough, good enough, white enough, and then there's am I not black enough? Because just like I was talking about earlier, whenever you have to fill out a piece of paperwork, you have to choose a box, even though you might belong in several different ones. Because the reality is none of us are truly pure unless there's some inbreeding. I can tell you do a lot of inbreeding, but I ain't go there.
It's another show. It's another show.
Yeah. But I do agree that, especially like you mentioned, that classical conditioning is already in the back of our minds that we already understand. And even though Zoe might not have had those intentions, but Hollywood had those intentions. Think about it. You know, we know about blackface. We even look at every role of a black person has always been someone other than that character, someone fitting that. India Ari could have played that part, you know, when it came to her complexion. And it's hard because you want us to get past beyond thinking in that manner, but at the same time, it's in our face, it's our reality. I mean, heck, Elizabeth Taylor played Cleopatra. you know. And you know, when we watch these cowboy Indians, my grandmama loved them things, but every time you look at the Indian, it's a white person in dark black makeup. So it's hard to get past that. And the fact that they had to apply those concepts and apply and darken her skin was enough to say, it's not against you, but why couldn't we find somebody else to fit this role? How many other characters have been played and they had found somebody who looked very close to that person, and they didn't have to be so distracting to take away from who the person was? I'm sure there were plenty other people that would have been able to play that role. Wonderful actress, love her acting. However, the concept, what she reinforced, was not okay.
No,
because what does it say to our children?
Absolutely.
What does it say to those that look like her and those who do not? It just reinforced that negative behavior, that classical conditioning to our community, everybody that's watching it. And it's very sad and disheartening. And I know, again, that's not her intention, but that's just the reality of the situation. And when you look at Hollywood, there are certain roles that my uncle and my sister and I were just talking about that. There are certain roles that only specific actors and actresses always fill. That's the token black person, the token black face. Nobody else will get those lead roles but them, and they have to fight for those roles. And it shouldn't come so hard, because then when you look at some of these other ones, these backgrounds, they come out and they can have the worst acting ever, but they will get casted for roles. It's not even about our accomplishments or our talent. It's about the look. It's about what Hollywood will allow to take place. And right now, especially with our country, our nation being so sensitive, as they put it, to our issue in our skin and our blackness, of course they're going to profit off of our blackness. And they're coming into these movies and they're bringing out everything because it's all about profit for them. So they use their token black princess at that moment to fill this role, instead of offering to somebody else who I'm sure had equal talent, if not more, that might have been a closer fit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Physical was that important to it. They should have casted it to someone else.
Absolutely.
That's right. Because she was Nina Simone was awesome. She was a superstar.
Yes.
And the story was great. You know, I saw it on Netflix. Everybody needs to see it. But I was just wondering, I said, why does Zoe Saldana look so disfigured? Because that was like taken away from it, because I keep looking at her and, you know, she was over here just looking all weird and everything, nose looked disfigured. And I said, well, I knew Nina Simone had a drug problem, an addiction problem, but I said, this lady looked rough, you know? And
Wow.
when I saw that article the other day, I said, yeah, I definitely have to bring that out. I definitely have to bring that out.
It goes back to their concept of beauty. You know, dark isn't so beautiful. Although they want to tan to look like us and perm and hit it kinky like us and get the cheekbones and everything else, but they still can't admit to the concept of their beauty might be misconstrued, and they really love our blackness, but they're not going to admit that, because then they have to admit so many other things, you know.
Yeah.
But that's just my issue with not Zoe herself, but what it reinforced, the behaviors, the thoughts, that mental conditioning. That's what it bothers me about her playing that role, and the makeup. It just reinforced too many negative things, and all the little girls that might look at that may question themselves after seeing that, because of what she had to look and how distorted her figure was. That's not what Nina looked like.
No. A great prophet. He's not here anymore. He said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud.
That's right.
Proud. The Vern Green Chords.
Yes, sir.
I was trying to give your question away earlier. You know, I was at the barbershop. Just start talking, you know. And you know, she called me last night. On last night's show, my dear friend Marietta Grant called in and said she was a victim of the brown bag test on the campus of a HBCU some 30 years ago. The young lady told Marietta that she had pretty hair, but placing the brown bag next to her face denied her access to their function, but suggested that Marietta may want to go to another party on campus with the Deltas. This was unreal to me. Being around hair care most of your life, Laverne, are these still some of the hangups internally and within the Black community, where skin color and hair length is a prerequisite for acceptance. What does this do for the African American woman's ego?
It makes it so much harder to build a strong ego because we have to work against everything that's been already planted against us. The fact that where we are today, and a lot of Black women embracing our natural beauty and having the options of doing whatever we want with our hair, that's a plus. That's a place that we had to work to get to. But a lot of what we're working against is a residual from what we had to go through to be accepted in the as the integration went on in those early days. We straightened our hair to look more European. Those facial features that we have no control over, but those that look more European, that was always more acceptable as we integrated into business fields and business societies. That was considered professional attire. So all of that, yeah, definitely, it played a part. Still, that we're going into it. I'm so glad to see that now in 2020 that we've kind of taken that and embraced it and realized that we have the option. If we want it straight, we'll do it straight. If we want to stay natural, we'll stay natural. If we want to lock it, we'll go ahead and lock it. That's our choice. But knowing that it's your choice and not just falling into a blind victim of what was planted ahead of us. It played a big part. Even though, in all honesty, I mean, that hair care was our bread and butter as I was growing up. But it was rooted in the idea that we weren't good enough as we were. That's the reality of it. So it's still out there. I say when you do it out of your own choice, wonderful. But we're working against what was planted all those years ago.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. We got the therapist back in the house. Letitia Burns, therapists, don't feel bad, because let me tell you, we miss those connections like that all the time, but I'm glad I got you back in the house. I got another question for you. I'm going to still give you your question, but yeah, I see how you're looking, but you got it. Stop looking like it's not in your wheelhouse. It's in your wheelhouse. You know you can handle it. Letitia, Hollywood has betrayed us. We've grown up, and Anastasia already in picking my pocket earlier. We've grown up with images of Charlton Heston playing Moses and Elizabeth Taylor playing Cleopatra. Obviously, Hebrews and Egyptians, men and women of color. We see images of Michelangelo's depiction of a white Jesus on the Sistine Chapel. I'll probably get stoned for this. White disciples, when history and geographical location would suggest that they too were people of color. How powerful were those images for us growing up to never see our faces, and for our children now?
We can't hear her.
Yeah.
I can't, therapist, we can't hear you. We got no audio. That's all right. Until she gets her audio back up. Somebody want to jump on that? I can say the last part again. How powerful were those images for us growing up to never see our faces, and for our children now? We've seen Cleopatra played by Elizabeth Taylor, as Anastasia alluded to earlier. We've seen Charlton Heston playing Moses, and we've seen a white Jesus on the Sistine Chapel, as well as white disciples. And it's obvious that they were also people of color. So how powerful were those images for us growing up to never see our faces, and even for our children now?
We need to see that. Our children need to see that. There is no Black history taught in school. There, they teach you how to make biscuits and home economics, but they don't tell you about who invented things that you don't know. So some of the things that we need to take those things by the helm, and we need to take responsibility for certain things. They don't teach you how to have good credit in school. They teach you how to write a check and balance a checkbook, but it does you no good if you have no money in the bank. So there are certain skill set that when you see it not being taught, we need to take control back over some things, and we need to put these visuals in front of them. Yes, it helped when President Obama made presidency, but where were we when he was a senator? Why did we not know more about him? Where were we? So we have to take responsibility and show them we're here. We've been present all before. Others have taken credit, but we've been here.
And I also think that, you know, those images were so powerful because as you're growing up, you are trying to formulate your identity. And even in 2020, identity is so prevalent now. We have so many different ones. You know, what do you go by? Pronouns, they, them, us, I, we, you know. And because that is so pertinent, because we want to define who we are, when we see that the concept of beauty is not me, it makes it that more difficult. And even as you're fighting against that, the fact that society sees you a certain way makes you question yourself. Because, you know, just as children, we're told that our first God is mother and father. What do we see when we're looking into the TV? Because now, with technology surrounding us everywhere, it's almost like it has become the idol God. So when that's all they see, and they're seeing this concept of beauty as twiggy, you got to be twiggy first of all. I ain't never been a size 0. I don't know, a negative nothing. But, you know, that's, you know, they're showing that's when you end up, those images that keep being put in our face create things like anorexia, bulimia, suicide, mental issues, depression, because that source of identity that you're formulating yours around really does do a lot of self-harm.
Typically, people of color don't have that issue with bulimia. We take pride in food. We love to eat. We tell you we eat it. We take pictures of it, put it on Facebook. That's one of the things we like. So that's on the back burner for us. That's not one of our issues. I'll say that.
You're right. Because I tried fast and I didn't make it. I just ate fast.
But it's the subconscious, as if you're a young child that don't see your own image, and it's the spotlight is saying that this is beauty and this is acceptable and this is the it thing. Then if you don't know anything to balance, that's what you're going to strive for.
That's true.
And the anorexia that has kind of infiltrated into our culture is not our thing typically, because we do love to eat our soul food.
Yes.
But you know, when you're looking at this image of beauty, that's what they're going towards. And it's the subconscious. When you don't see your image, you don't see any good in your image. And I should say any good, because as things kind of go on, we see that we started to see our image, but it's in a negative. Anything, you know, the black guy coming on the TV show, you know, he's going to do the crime. The black guy comes in, he's going to be the first one dead. But, you know, it's the image. It's the image. It is the image. And we got to fight against that. Our children now, they're starting to see more of themselves in the entertainment.
Absolutely.
And I feel, as I guess my grandparents felt coming up, you know, when you see the tides start to change and you feel like finally, you know, granted, we have a whole lot more to do, but where we are now, I can walk in the store and I can find a brown doll to give to my niece.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's
awesome.
It's just the subconscious. It really does.
We are definitely making progress, but as a people, there's always been a different set of standards for us. And it started at home, because your grandmother would tell you, I don't care if you only got 2 pair of pants, they're going to be clean and they're going to be ironed.
Absolutely.
So it's rare for us to walk out the house, even to check the mailbox with something that's not put together. We know how to do that. We've been taught that. But we set those standards for ourselves because we know when we walk into that restaurant, when we walk into that job interview, we know we have to do extra.
Absolutely.
We do. I working in HR, sometimes I have to give advice, and you have to err on the side of caution so it'll be received well. But be careful when you name your daughter Bonquisha, Maquita, Felita. Be careful because you can almost eliminate them before they get in the door.
Mm-hmm.
They look at that. They don't eliminate their opportunity beforehand. And there are people that do it.
I'm looking forward to the day that won't be an issue.
Right.
We're still hopeful, but those things do occur.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's other things, like when you live in the more rural areas, sometimes there's not internet access where we're not privy to learning certain programs. It's just certain things. So what I'm saying is, let's not add to the equation if they're already trying to possibly eliminate us. And it does happen. They might get one good one, and you could represent for this side of the hall, and then we'll put another one over there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're seeing more diversified workforce, and that helps. But in all honesty, I went natural in 2008, just when the economy was changing. That was not, I did that because I was trying to eliminate a cost. And I just stayed with it. Cut out JCPenney's salon every 2 weeks, save some money. But when going on an interview, I will honestly tell you that I paid $100 to get this straightened back out, to go to that interview, to feel out the culture, to see what the culture of that environment was prior to them interviewing me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always accepted.
And it's sad. It's sad.
It is, but it's our truth.
Yeah. I'm not gonna stop going to Mackie though. I know you stopped going to the hairdresser. Stop going to Mackie. That's therapy. You go ahead, Dad. I'll go back to Mackie. That's what I'll do. I'll be joking, but you know, it's a sad thing, but it's truth. Yeah, it's truth.
I just don't understand what's the big deal about hair. It's just hair.
There's a show called Lovecraft that's on right now.
My husband's watching that.
Ooh, that's deep, isn't it?
I need to go look at that. He's watching that.
It goes through a lot, but it literally plays. There was a woman, dark brown skin, who literally, to be noticed and get a job, what was it, the Woolworth store? You know, where everybody was trying to get to. She literally had to become a white woman for them to even acknowledge her existence. Wow. Because before she waited and she worked to get that job. And when she finally got brave enough to put in the application, they found their token black person and they were not accepting anymore. So it took her becoming a white woman in order to get a job there. Wow. And we still see that happening. I got turned away. Away in college. I'm talking about in 2000. I literally, they saw my name, Anastasia. They heard my voice on the phone and made an assumption. And then when I showed up, the position was filled.
Oh, imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm dangerous on the phone too. Then when I walk through the door, they're like,
"You said, bam."
Sorry about that.
I'm sorry, were you?
He put the wrong job up. Sorry about that. The next 6 months. Lori Chapman. Letitia, did you get sound yet? No. I didn't hear you yet. That's okay. You say that though, because you look fabulous. You look fabulous. You look fabulous. Lori Chapman. When we revisit the legendary court case, and y'all keep picking my pocket, Vern, y'all must have something prophetic in here. prophetic. When we revisit the legendary court case Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka, we remember the landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court, in which the court ruled that U.S. state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in quality. But at the root of this case was the famed doll test performed by doctors Kenneth and Mamie Clark, an African-American husband and wife team of psychologists. In these psychological tests performed on African-American children, the children were presented two sets of diapered dolls, one white and one painted with brown skin, because no African-American baby dolls were being manufactured at that time. And the children were asked to identify the one they wanted to play with, the one that looked white, colored, or Negro, the one that was good or bad, and the one that looked most like them. The children gravitated towards and wanted to play with the white doll. But when asked to identify which doll looked most like them, after choosing the doll with brown skin, some of the children would cry and run out of the room. The Clarks drew the conclusion that these African-American children suffered the effects of living in a society intolerant of the Negro. Dr. Clark would later testify before the United States Supreme Court that these children saw themselves as inferior, and they accepted the inferiority as a part of reality. My question is, in 2020, is America still intolerant of African Americans? And does America have the expectations that we will accept inferiority as our reality?
I will say, in the more recent blatancy that has crossed the media, that many will not be able to turn a blind eye to it. Many who didn't realize, like you didn't realize, there's a such thing as a brown paper bag. Many that didn't realize that they had white privilege, now you see them marching with or without the mask on. So now we've come together for this cause. Some blood has been shed, but I think we've come a long way as a whole, not just as a Black nation, but as a whole. I think this is where we should be headed. We have a long way to go, but we're headed in the right direction. Do they think that we're going to stand by and accept this? No. They know we're not.
That's why they're fighting so hard.
They know we're not. Yeah. Please vote. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You know, but what I'll say about that is, don't just wait till the presidential election.
Right.
City council, PTA, who the church secretary going to be? Any opportunity you get to vote, you should be voting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's important to vote. That's right.
Get as much practice as you can.
Absolutely.
You voting for the person that didn't wake up to vote. You voting for the person who then laid down and died for the opportunity for you to vote.
There we go.
And don't say your vote don't count. It don't count if you don't get out there.
Exactly.
Don't say it don't make a difference, because if we have 100,000 of you, then yeah, we have lost. So if we don't get what we want, it's not because we didn't vote. It's because you didn't vote. We voted.
Absolutely. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. We do have a comment that came in from Shamir Jackson, a good friend of mine. And Shamir says that my mom is always getting on me about getting a perm for my hair, even though I told her I don't want chemicals.
Can I say that I went through my many phases and I learned, even when I had a relaxer, I was having these horrible migraines, really horrible migraines. And we thought it was so many other things, but all along, my tender head was because of the chemicals on my scalp. And every time, yes, my hair would grow out, but by the time it got to a certain length, more than half of it was damaged. And with just as much as my hair was damaged, so was I. Because then after a while, it felt like not only do I have to go through so much pain each, month to get my hair straight enough, I'm still not good enough, and I'm still not able to be me. And now, do I discount anybody that has a relaxer or anything of that nature? No, because like Sister Lauren said earlier, anybody, as long as you have the choice, that's one thing. If you decide you want to have a relaxer, then you don't have to have a relaxer. If you don't want to use the chemicals, you don't have to use the chemicals. If you want to be natural, because as long as you accept yourself and have the confidence enough, then you will be put into a place where then you should be able to be accepted too. If they can't take you too far, then you don't need to be there. They can't walk in your greatness. They can't handle your greatness. But it's your choice. It's your body and your choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you heard that, Shamir. You heard that came from Anastasia. Right. Your body and your choice. But don't tell your mom like Anastasia said it.
Don't tell your mom I said it. My name is God.
So you make me from a distance, you say, Mom, it's my body and it's my choice.
Right.
Or you don't have to have the conversation, because I'm telling you, I also experienced some of the growing pains when I decided to go natural. And hair was our thing. Again, it was the red. But when I decided that I didn't want chemicals in my hair anymore, so I went natural, and I did that for a period of time. And then I decided that, I wanted to connect with more of my roots and my heritage. And that's when I decided to lock it. It's a choice. You don't have to have the conversation. Sometimes it's easier not to say anything. Let them talk. Don't be disrespectful. But if you decide that's not what you want, just keep doing your thing.
Absolutely.
So be prepared, because if you talk, Mama's got these reflexes that's working. Right? Don't have nothing. So you might need to solicit some help.
Don't say anything. Don't say anything.
That's right. Yeah, Shabir, let that dog die.
Yeah. Anastasia, I will say this. I was just thinking about what you said in regards to suffering from migraines. And I noticed, I just thought about it. I was on medication for migraines, but since going natural, I may have had 2 or 3 since going natural. So maybe that was a link to what was causing it. I kind of ruled out MSG. I just kind of eliminated that. But maybe that had something to do with it possibly too. I never would have put that together.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. Wow.
We weren't made for all the chemicals that we put in our bodies and on our bodies. We weren't set up for that. We really.
Absolutely. With that being said, same thing with the bleaches for our skin.
Right.
Ambi and all this other stuff. Where is it sold at? We don't need to bleach our skin. Embrace your skin.
Absolutely. And you got to remember, like you said, where is it being?
Who's producing it? Right. They're not trying to be lighter. They're trying to be darker. They want us to want to be lighter.
Exactly. But it's all representation. It's all manipulated. The root of it, we're not, generally speaking, we're not in the powers of position to make these decisions. We're not in the things for these movies. We're not in the boardroom when they decide that this product is going to be the it product. It is not, these decisions that are being imposed on us or persuaded to us are not being made by us.
Absolutely.
We're being made by someone else. And most times they're driven by the dollar, and it's destroying us individually, destroying us as a community. It's destroying us as a village. Our divide was not made of our own. The crabs in the barrel wasn't of our own, but it was all a part of the mindset and the system that was implanted on us. And we're just went apart by keeping it going.
Yes.
I think you said there were 2 things that you said that were very important. You mentioned earlier, one was education, how it starts in the home. And you mentioned the system. The system is not designed for our come up. It is designed for us to fail. It is a funneling system. And as somebody who's in the education system, I can say that you cannot rely on the public or private education.
Absolutely.
The most reliable source is that of your own, from your home.
Absolutely.
Because this system is truly the epitome of a school to prison pipeline system. And what people aren't acknowledging is that the way our virtual people are frustrated with how virtual school is going right now It is simply because now we're exposing the system that is in place for our children, but they're not looking at that part. We're looking at teachers and everything else. No, people are and things. Our system is being exposed. We have to acknowledge that. Like you said, it's taking the black out of school. What they're leaving, slavery. Slavery is being reinforced, but not the civil rights movement, not that anything before slavery. It is what they want us to know.
Yes.
We have to educate our children. I mean,
Absolutely.
no way around it. And we have to be more forceful and consistent with it. And I would tell you, even with me, I felt a victim of the society for a while. I was trusting. A mother I was with my 22-year-old is not the mother I am right now with my 10-year-old. Let me tell you. And I even had to have a conversation as he's an adult. You know, we've had some conversations like, I am so sorry. If I had the mindset back then that I have, I probably, it wasn't necessarily bad, but I would have been more forceful in our history, more forceful in sharing what we went through, counteracting what they were given in schools. I would have done it a little bit differently. So I did apologize to him, but 10-year-old, oh, he's got it now. He's a little militant.
You got it all figured out now.
Well, you know, and I would say with the help of my husband, because he is absolutely vocal with a lot of things.
Awesome.
Absolutely vocal. But that's what we have to do. We have to empower our children because, again, left up to them, they're really just creating what they want, and it's not for our betterment.
That's right.
With that being said, we need more men to be men. We need them to be present.
Absolutely.
We need to redefine what man is in some cases, but we need them present.
And as women, we have to be open to that as well and allow them to be present.
Absolutely.
That's another show too. Oh my gosh.
Another show.
Well, hold on there.
I'll write that one.
But I made the comment one time that I was a single mother raising my older son. Unfortunately, I have my younger son, my husband now. We're doing it together. We have a partnership. But I did the best I could with my oldest son. But a woman cannot teach a man how to be a man, especially a Black man.
Yes.
And all that is involved with it. You just can't. You absolutely can. And some people take exception to that. I can't apologize, and I won't apologize because it's the truth.
Absolutely.
Our
I was a
perception
single
of
parent for a little while too, and a single parent of 2 Black boys, and it's hard. I remember the youngest one. He was in Miss Martha Dixon's class.
Dixon. Yeah.
I had been in Miss Dixon class, and at the time, my name was Chapman, and my son's name was Mason still because of the first marriage. And when she called and when she figured out who I was embarrassed because we're having a conversation about my son misbehaving. And she knew I was kind of just at my wit's end. But I will tell you what she said to me, and I often have to repeat it back to other parents. It is that God designed you for that child. That's your assignment. He would have never assigned that child to you if he didn't feel you were up to the job. And I have to always think back on that when he challenged me or when things ain't going like how I think they should go. Miss Dixon always come back. Miss Dixon is right there.
Miss Dixon saw me in Piggly Wiggly parking lot one day, and that's right after I started preaching, probably about 10 years. And she said, "Son, did you serve any time?" I said, "No, ma'am. I didn't serve any time." She said, "What you doing now?" I said, "I've been preaching for the last 10 years. Boy, I thought Miss Dixon was gonna have the Holy Ghost." She grabbed her puppy like, "Hold my mule."
Hold my mule. Won't you do it?
Can I mention something that Miss Letitia saying? She said he doesn't call on the qualified; he qualifies those who he calls.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, he got a sense of humor because he called me to preach. He sure did.
He did one on you.
And you know, you mentioned the brown doll earlier, and I did want to speak on that because you know, again, as teachers at home, what we surround our children by, we got to know what they're watching, what they're listening to, you know, what they're reading. You know, they're going to be sent home a lot of books, but we got to look into things because there's a lot of symbolism in things.
Yes.
And, you know, as a people, our people are spiritual people. We can feel and sense things. So we got to go back to that and not deny that. Because when you get that gut feeling, that's somebody telling you, "Whoa, hold up now." You might want to read the passage that your child has to write this report about, because it may be something that is completely negative. And if you need to stand up and speak up for your child, do so. And my daughter, she's seen and she understands different colors and things because they're in the world. I don't want to isolate her and put her in this make-believe world that other people don't exist. But, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I don't always let her get the blonde doll. I'm like, "Oh, hold up," you know, like she was in the JoJo Siwa, "Baby, I'll buy you the bow, but I'm not getting you her shirt."
Yes.
I'm sorry. And, you know, and even the unicorn, it was funny because I had somebody ask me, "Well, why you want, it's just a unicorn." I said, "Well, what is that unicorn? Why do we keep idolizing the white unicorn? Look at My Little Ponies. I'll get a purple one first." But we have to look at that because you don't, just as you second guess and you question that, if you don't look into it, believe it or not, our children, especially the ones that are born now, their mind, my daughter is 7 going on 21, okay? So their mind is someplace different. And they're still taking it in. That subconscious mind is feeling, and they're absorbing all of that, even if we're not thinking that deep. They're feeling it. They may not know how to express it, but they are. So no, Mama don't get no white unicorn. Baby, I'll get you the gold horn, but you can't have a white drum. So,
But it's true. I agree. And, you know, I have a younger sister and she always laugh at me like, everything got to be black. I'm not anti-white. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-white. But I need to show my children, my child, and those that I have any influence over, that you are represented. You are beautiful. You are just as beautiful. We can get a beautiful Christy doll, or at least it was Christy doll when I was growing up. I don't know what it is right now. But you can get a beautiful doll. You can get a representation of yourself. Even when I used to do, and I don't do the Christmas and the decorations anymore, but when I did that, a black Santa Claus, because we were a black household. Even with my oldest son, I told him, Santa Claus turned into whatever he needed to turn into when he got into that house. If he went to a Chinese house, he turned there. If he goes to a Caucasian house, he turns there. It's a representation of you. Right. So we need to let them know that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with celebrating you. So just because we're embracing ourselves, it doesn't mean we're anti anyone else, but we're embracing ourselves. And as Ms. Letitia said, we are our children's best advocate. We need to speak for them. We need to show them. We build them up.
Right.
And we have to, because the world's waiting to tear them down.
I think that's the misconception when the world hears Black Lives Matter. It's not that we're against everybody else, but we got to stand up more for us. Right. It's not that we're eliminating, we're not acknowledging, but we're the one who's in the media. We're the one who's laying on the concrete right now. So we need to let you know that we feel like our lives matter.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Letitia said, we all love the song that the ice cream truck plays as well, but if only people knew that the song represents negativity for Black people and watermelon. So you are right about symbolism.
Yes.
Wow. That's on the way to talk to us. That's on the way to talk to us now.
Yeah. And just so y'all know, my daughter said that the real Santa Claus is the Black Santa Claus that come down by Colonial Lake because he got Legichi. Okay. She don't know about the other guy. She think he's creepy.
Say Santa Gulagichi, huh?
Yes. But they got a Black Santa and a Black Mrs. Claus. She don't want to go to the other parade. That ain't the Gulagichi.
Wow.
That's all right. That's all right.
Shamir Jackson sent another message in. The same Shamir Jackson that sent the message about the perm. She said, I'm 38 and I still don't want her right hook. So Shamir,
right.
You don't want her mom right hook. Yeah. I know my grandmother was fast. Let me tell you something. You think Sugar Ray Hands fast? She would be Jesus keeps you. slapping she didn't even drop the handbook. You know?
I know that's right.
And I was sitting over there trauma, you know, like you know, yeah, Shabir. Yeah, get your mom right hook. Yeah, Shabir, don't mess with that right hook. And the therapist says, you've got to use what you got to get what you want. All right,
All right.
all right, therapist. Ladies, I got another question. I got another question here. People have, and therapists, you can chime in on this because this is your question, because I see you can communicate now. You can communicate on this question. Oh, yeah. You got to look fantabulous. Communicate on this question right here. People have a propensity, a general tendency to run away from pain and gravitate towards happily ever afters. We cannot erase the trauma in America's past, the slaughter of the indigenous people that we celebrate as Columbus Day, the horror of the Holocaust, the massacre of the American Indians beginning at Plymouth Rock. But when it comes to slavery, we're almost told to buck up and put a Band-Aid on all that trauma. My question is, what's the danger of covering such pain and trauma? Can it cause resentment or psychological wounds to fester? And unattended, will the pain just go away?
Woo. All I can say on that one as she's typing is that we got to get uncomfortable to get to a place of comfort.
Absolutely correct. No wound will heal. Well, I shouldn't say no, because some of them will, but it won't heal appropriately if it's not attended to. You can't get a burn and just figure, oh, it's just going to heal on its own. Right. And the same thing with our emotional and our mental and all of the hurt that's on the inside. We have to deal with it and confront it so that we can move beyond it, put it in perspective of what it is.
Absolutely.
Put it in perspective so that we can move on and not even move on. And maybe I should not use that because I think that's a false terminology because we're not necessarily moving on, but we have to think through it, process through it so that we can know what that hurt is, the effects of it in other areas of life, so we can put it in its right perspective so that we can live with it.
To acknowledge our past is other people have to acknowledge theirs too, then their hand in it.
Oh, that's a big one these days. And you said we have to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. But we have to address it so we can do what we need to do.
The first part, just like you said, it's just about acknowledging that it's present and a game plan to address it. And yeah, in a sense, move on, but not move on, but deal with the reality of it. Yeah.
And I know for me, you know, I know that, you know, when we were younger, we watched Roots. And I know that for me watching Roots, the images were so powerful and it kind of stuck in your mind because you couldn't fathom it, you know, because I'm sitting here, you know, in a nice house, growing up in the grand city of Macbeth, South Carolina. Yeah. Right by the railroad tracks. You know, we had Mr. Jackson's fish down there at the shack.
Wow.
Not sandwich, but sandwich. And, you know, sandwich. That's right. A sandwich and a sandwich are different. But you know, and that's right. You ain't got. If someone says, "Would you like a sandwich?" No, don't matter.
You don't want that.
But somebody, you want a sandwich? Get you a sandwich. And so you know, going to that you know, I know growing up, and when I saw that, it was like, there's some things that just get stuck with you. Like I can see those images from Roots. I can still see Walter Scott running across that you know, that embankment and getting shot in the back. And then I seen that guy place the weapon down and thinking to myself, because we were in the barbershop, and I remember telling Benjamin McGee Mackey, I remember telling him, and that's right, and go to Mackey's barbershop, get your haircut. I remember I gotta plug my barber. I love my barber.
Yeah, you better.
That's right. Hey, but
free advertisement. That's right. Plug my cubs. Plug my cubs.
Hey, but I remember going to the barbershop the next day and saying, you know, Mackie, if I didn't see, if that guy didn't take video, the first thing I would have said was, man, Walter Scott should have never tried to take the man weapon. That's what I would have said.
Thank God for video footage.
But when that video footage came out, it's like it became a new reality for me, because it was something that I was like, the police kill him? I was like, and tried to plant a weapon on him? They do this? And I mean, we have things like that other places. But I mean, to see that actually, and you stop and you say to yourself then, well, how much times have they done this before?
Right.
Where there is no footage. That's
you know,
right.
because I'm honoring the badge and who he is and what he's supposed to stand for. And all police are not bad. You know, because Quentin, you're listening to it right now. I know Quentin say, so he's saying all police bad. No, Quentin, all police not bad. So he's saying all police bad. I'm gonna lock him up next to my dude. No, all police are not bad. But the bad ones make it bad for the rest.
Absolutely.
And the bad ones don't need to be police officers. And that stuck in my mind. And the other thing that just kind of changed me, because y'all be surprised, this platform is supposed to be a different platform altogether. You know, this is supposed to be a funny platform. This platform supposed to be funny. I got a sock puppet over there. Yeah, this platform supposed to be funny. You know, I got a sock puppet over there too. I ain't even get a tag on him. But when I saw George Floyd with that man's knee on his neck, and I saw George Floyd struggling for his life, and this guy just sitting there with no problem. And when we have some of our classmates to come out and to have the nerve to talk about George Floyd was a drug addict, I said, listen, I got on 10 then. I turned up on 10. One of my classmates asked me on Facebook one day, he said, I say just like I know, he said, Cornell, you seem like you're up in arms. Yeah, I'm up in arms.
That's right.
I'm up in arms because I think that this year, because you try to strip so much things away from us, and you try to strip even our dignity as men and women of color, and I said, no, sir. I said, no, I'll be vocal. I'm gonna be vocal.
Wow.
And I'll be
vocal.
No
one deserves that.
Absolutely.
I don't care what their past consists of. No one deserves that.
No.
Life is life. And you know, you said they stripped so much from us. Isn't it something when you can tell that they even stripped away our thoughts? They still control that, because for your first initial reaction to be, he shouldn't have took that gun. It's like that spirit of fear that they put in us too, really influence the way you think even about each other. I know Letitia said that she read a quote. I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone that wasn't even sorry and accept an apology I never received. And am I looking at the glass half full or half empty? So it's about perception. I acknowledge my truth and the truth, but I try to be part of the solution and not the problem.
Yes.
Go ahead, girl.
That's right.
You bad, even you texted and you still bad. Go ahead, therapist. I'm gonna read that one more time. I read a quote. I never knew how strong I was until I had to forgive someone that wasn't even sorry and accept an apology I never received. I'm gonna have to put that in one of them sermons. Am I looking at the glass half full or half empty? So it's about perception. I acknowledge my truth, the truth, but I try to be a part of the solution and not the problem. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I have detained you ladies for some time. I'm so glad that you joined us tonight. This has been awesome. This has been the Skin I'm In Part 2, and it's just been awesome getting together. And I think that I think everything's ordained by God. I know His hand is on everything, and hopefully somebody listened and somebody was blessed tonight. we're hoping that somebody will take something away from this, and we're gonna end with the same quote that we started off with, and that quote was, "The black skin is not a badge of shame, but rather a glorious symbol of national greatness," and that's the great Marcus Garvey. The therapist said, "I appreciate you all." We appreciate you too, the therapist.
Yes.
We appreciate you too.
That's right.
And I appreciate Laverne Court. I hit Laverne up this afternoon. I said, "Laverne, can you come on?" She said, "Yeah." I appreciate you.
Well, what did I say before that? No, I'm just-
She said, "Cornell, am I in trouble?" You know, God bless her. We had a lady, Miss Schuler, and I'm gonna tell you something. I didn't want to do nothing in church. I just wanted to sit back in the back and chill out, laugh at kids if they forget their speech, because that's what we used to do. You know, they'd be doing their speech and they start looking in the air. And Jesus. And I said, "Why are they looking in the air?" That was always protocol, right? Jesus Christ,
Jesus help me. Jesus help me.
Jesus Christ is born today. And she used to always trick me, and she'd be like, I could tell she get ready to get something up. "Baby, you look so good today. Oh, your grandparents got you dressed up so nice, baby." Pat me on my hand, and then she said, "Would you read this for me today?" I said, "In front of the church?" And I said, if anybody made me a preacher, it was God and Miss Schuler. Because let me tell you, she always had me in something. So, yeah, Laverne, I learned from the best. She was a master psychologist. And Anastasia, we thank you so much. Lori, HR, we thank you so much for coming and being with us today. And we thank all of you out there in the listening audience that tuned in. And so we just want you to know that James Brown said, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud."
I'm black and I'm proud.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
hey. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for joining us on this platform, The Moral Compass. Until next time, I'm Cornell Johnson.